They say a dog's love is unconditional, but what happens when the one they love is gone forever? For 7 long months, through rain, wind, and the bitter cold, a golden retriever named Max lay beside his owner's grave, refusing food, comfort, and even shelter. He wasn't lost. He wasn't waiting for rescue. He was waiting for the one person he could never forget. This is the true story of a heart that never stopped hoping. A story of love so pure, so unbreakable that not even death could end it. If you've ever loved or lost, this story will stay with you long after the final word, the final walk. The morning sun barely peeked through the curtains when old Mr. Harris tied the leash around Max's collar one last time. The golden retriever, now graying around the muzzle, wagged his tail eagerly, oblivious to the quiet sadness in his owner's eyes. For Max, every walk was a celebration, every breeze a song. But for Mr. Harris, this walk felt like a farewell. "Come on, boy," he whispered, his voice laced with fatigue and something deeper, resignation. Max trotted beside him through the narrow cobblestone path, tail swaying, eyes bright. The old man shuffled slowly, his hand trembling slightly as he held onto the leash, his cane tapping gently with every step. Every villager they passed smiled at the sight. Harris and Max had been a pair for over 13 years. You never saw one without the other. They reached the park by the hill, where the flowers had just begun to bloom again after a long, harsh winter. Mr. Harris sat on their usual bench, and Max lay his head on his master's knee like he always did. The old man looked out across the field, where birds fluttered and children laughed in the distance. "You've been a good boy, Max," he murmured, running a thin hand through the dog's fur. "The best I could have ever asked for." Max looked up, sensing something was different. He nudged Mr. Harris gently, as if trying to read his soul. The man chuckled weakly. "I'm tired, boy, really tired." That night, Harris didn't get up from his armchair. He passed quietly in his sleep, a soft smile still on his lips. The next morning, Max paced the hallway, whimpering softly, staring at the bedroom door that never opened again. When the funeral came, Max walked beside the casket like a soldier in silent mourning. He sat near the grave as the earth swallowed the last piece of the man he loved. No leash, no commands, just love, pure, aching and wordless. As the mourners left, Max stayed. The sun dipped below the horizon, and the cemetery fell into quiet. Wind rustled the trees, and the freshly turned soil held the scent of roses and sorrow. And Max, curled up beside the headstone, as if he believed, truly believed, that if he waited long enough, his master would return. He didn't go home that night. He never did again, waiting among the graves. Days turned into nights, and nights into colder mornings, but Max remained. He lay curled beside the headstone of Arthur Harris, his tail still, his eyes hollow but watchful. Each time the wind blew through the cemetery, lifting the leaves and rattling the flowers left behind, Max would lift his head, ears perked, hopeful. But no footsteps ever came. The villagers began to notice. At first, they thought Max had simply wandered off and would return home soon. But he didn't. Rain fell, and still he stayed. The groundskeeper, Mr. Langley, tried to coax him away with treats and gentle words. "Come on, boy," he said one drizzly morning, holding out a slice of ham. "You can't stay out here like this." Max took the food, but never left his spot. He carried it back to the grave, dropped it beside the headstone, and lay down again, as if offering it to the man beneath the earth. Children would sometimes come with their parents to place flowers on nearby graves. They'd point at the dog and ask, "Why is he still there, Mama?" And the mothers, holding back tears, would whisper, "Because he still loves someone who's gone." Every day, Max kept his vigil. He braved summer's blazing heat and winter's bitter frost. Snow once piled up around him until only his shape could be seen, curled in white silence. But he didn't flinch, didn't move unless it was to press his nose against the cold marble stone where his master's name was carved, Arthur Harris. 1939 to 2022, a gentle soul, forever loved. On one particularly harsh night, a thunderstorm broke across the sky like a war drum. Lightning cracked, and the heavens wept. But Max didn't seek shelter. He lay soaked, trembling but unmoved, watching, waiting. Some say they heard him howling that night, a long, mournful cry that echoed through the valley and made the trees shudder. Others say it sounded less like a howl and more like a heartbreak. As weeks turned to months, the villagers grew protective of Max. Someone placed a small doghouse near the grave. Another brought warm blankets. A bakery left a bowl of fresh water and bread scraps. But Max rarely used any of it. He only had eyes for the headstone. A reporter came from the city, hoping to write a story about the graveyard dog. He tried to snap a photo, but when Max turned his gaze to the camera, the man lowered it slowly. There was too much in those eyes. Loss, longing, loyalty. No lens could ever truly capture it. The cemetery had always been a place of endings, but now, because of Max, it had become a place of unspoken love. People began visiting not just to grieve their own, but to leave flowers beside Mr. Harris's grave for Max. Max, the dog who waited. Max, the dog who loved beyond goodbye. Whispers of rain and roses. Spring came gently, as if it too feared disturbing the dog who kept his silent watch. The grass grew greener around Mr. Harris's grave, and small white daisies began to sprout from the earth, as though nature itself was trying to offer comfort. Max had grown thinner. His golden coat was no longer the proud sheen it once was. It was matted now, dulled by rain and wind and time. But his eyes still searched each passerby, hoping, aching for a familiar step, a familiar voice. Some villagers had begun to leave more than food and blankets. They brought flowers, letters, and prayers. A little girl named Sophie often came with her grandmother. She would sit a few feet from Max and read aloud from a picture book. "This one's about a boy who gets lost," she said once, her small voice trembling. "But his dog finds him, just like how you'll find Mr. Harris, right?" Max looked at her, ears twitching, as if understanding. He inched a little closer to her that day. Then came the roses. Every Thursday, without fail, a single red rose appeared on Mr. Harris's grave. It was always fresh, always placed just so, tucked carefully beneath the name engraved in stone. No one ever saw who left it. It became a mystery wrapped in reverence, a quiet act of devotion that mirrored Max's own. One rainy Thursday, the rose was different. Alongside it lay a folded piece of paper, tucked under a small stone to keep it from flying away. Mr. Langley found it first and hesitated before opening it. The handwriting was shaky, almost hesitant. "Arthur, I see your loyal friend still waits for you. I hope you know how deeply you were loved, not just by people, but by this gentle soul who refuses to move on. I couldn't come to your funeral. I couldn't bear it. But I come now, every week, to say what I couldn't before. You were my first love, my only one, and he is the last part of you, still waiting to come home." Langley folded the note with trembling hands and placed it gently back beneath the rose. He looked over at Max, lying in his usual spot, soaked from the morning rain but still as steady as the gravestone he guarded. "You're not the only one grieving, are you, boy?" he whispered. That night, for the first time, Max didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He simply stared at the sky as if asking it questions that would never have answers. The wind howled through the trees, carrying the scent of roses and rain, like a whisper from a world beyond. By now, Max had become a legend. The townsfolk spoke of him in hushed tones. Children wrote about him in school. Travelers left treats beside the gate. Some believed Max could see spirit, that he waited not for the living, but for the day his master's soul would return to guide him home. But those who knew dogs, who understood the purity of their heart, said only this: he waits. Because love, like that, doesn't end. It just sits quietly, forever loyal, beside a name carved in stone, listening to the wind and the whispers of rain and roses. Letters left in silence. The cemetery had grown quieter, almost sacred. People stepped more softly when they passed Max now, as if entering a cathedral made of stone and sorrow. Max had become more than just a dog. He was a guardian of grief, a symbol of devotion untouched by time. The Thursday roses continued. Week after week, rain or shine, one red rose would appear by Mr. Harris's grave. Sometimes a note came with it, folded carefully and pressed beneath a small stone. The villagers never touched them. These were private words, words meant only for Arthur, words that no one dared disturb. One morning, Mr. Langley found Max lying beside not one, but two roses. One fresh and deep red, the other wilted, as if plucked days ago but laid with equal care. Tucked between them was the longest letter yet. Langley couldn't help himself. He glanced around the empty cemetery, then read quietly aloud. Dearest Arthur, I don't know if dogs dream, but I believe Max dreams of you. I've watched him, eyes closed, ears twitching, as if he's walking beside you in some faraway field, chasing shadows of the past. I see myself in him. I wait too, in silence, in memories. In the parts of the day when the world is too loud and you are too gone. We both keep our hearts in places you used to be. And maybe that's why he still stays. Because love, real love, never asks why. It just stays. I miss you more than I can bear, but I think Max misses you in ways I'll never understand. His grief is quieter than mine, but no less deep. We're both just unfinished without you. Langley's eyes blurred. He wiped them quickly, then tucked the letter back beneath the roses. He sat beside Max for a moment, the silence between them thick with empathy. You and her, he whispered. You're carrying the same kind of hurt. Max raised his head slowly, staring into the distance as if trying to see through the veil between this world and the next. That night, a soft drizzle fell again, kissing the earth with the gentleness of unspoken goodbyes. Max refused the food that people left. He curled tighter beside the grave, pressing his body into the soil like he was trying to warm the cold stone with his own fading heat. By now, Max's health had visibly declined. His ribs showed faintly through his fur. His steps were slower. His eyes, though still filled with longing, carried the weight of tired years. But still, he did not leave. One day, a boy from the town came with his father and quietly placed a drawing at the foot of the grave. It showed Max and Mr. Harris walking side by side under a tree. Above them, written in a child's careful handwriting. Some goodbyes never really happen. Max laid his head beside it that night, as if he knew, as if he understood, that even in the absence of words, love was speaking to him, through letters, through pictures, through every soul that stopped to feel what he refused to let go of. The letters kept coming, but one day they stopped. No rose, no note, only wind, and Max, as always, waited, faithful in silence. The day he stopped barking. The morning air was unusually still, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. It was a Thursday, but there was no rose, no letter, no soft footsteps echoing between the stones. Just silence, long, unbroken silence that felt too loud. Mr. Langley noticed it first. He came to unlock the cemetery gates, as he did every day, carrying a small packet of biscuits in his coat pocket, just for Max. He called softly, "Come on, boy, breakfast." But Max didn't come. He wasn't curled up beside the grave, like he always was. Not in his usual spot under the fading patch of grass. Panic stirred in Langley's chest as he scanned the rows of headstones, until he saw a still, golden shape lying directly against Mr. Harris's grave. Max wasn't asleep. He wasn't guarding anymore. He had gone. No whimper, no final cry, just quiet. Max had stopped barking. Langley dropped to his knees beside him. His hands trembled as they touched the dog's fur, still warm, as if he had only just slipped away. His head rested against the marble stone, his body curled like a letter never sent. One paw stretched slightly across the name engraved there, as if reaching for the man he had waited so long to see again. Tears fell freely from Langley's eyes as he whispered, "You waited long enough, old boy. Maybe now you've found him." Word spread through the town quickly. Shopkeepers closed early, children cried, elderly women clutched their hearts. Even the mayor came, hat in hand, standing quietly at the grave of a dog who had never asked for anything except to love and be loved in return. They buried Max beside Mr. Harris. not beneath a grand monument or in a fancy casket, but wrapped in Mr. Harris's old coat, the one he used to wear on their morning walks. A boy placed the same drawing on the fresh earth, Max and Arthur walking beneath a tree. Someone else placed a small plaque, "Here lies Max, the dog who waited, the heart that never left." And just as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, a woman appeared at the cemetery gates. She was older now, eyes lined with years of unshed tears, in her hand a single red rose. She saw the fresh grave, the people, the tears, and she knew. She fell to her knees and sobbed, long and raw and real. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the wind. "I came too late." The townspeople didn't speak. They didn't have to. Grief knows grief. Love recognizes love. She placed the rose between the two graves where two souls had waited, each for the other, and whispered, "Now you're both home." The wind stirred gently, rustling the trees as if carrying their reunion to the heavens. And in that moment, the cemetery wasn't just a place of endings. It was a place of return, of love fulfilled, of a loyalty that had crossed even death's quiet line. A statue in his memory. The graveyard had never been busier. People who had never known Arthur Harris now came bearing flowers for Max. Travelers paused in reverent silence before the two graves, one of a man, the other of a dog, side by side in eternal rest. Children learned of love not from books, but from a golden retriever who waited when no one else would. A quiet hush seemed to blanket the place now. It wasn't sorrow anymore, not quite. It was something gentler, something softer. Peace, perhaps. Months passed, seasons turned, but no one forgot Max. The townspeople, moved by the dog's unwavering devotion, came together to honor him in a way that would last longer than even grief. They raised money, each coin dropped into jars at bakeries and flower shops like little offerings of gratitude. And one misty morning, beneath the same tree where Arthur and Max had often sat on their long walks, the statue was unveiled. It was simple but perfect, a life-sized bronze Max, sitting tall with quiet dignity, ears alert, eyes gentle. At his feet, a sculpted rose, beside him, an inscription carved into stone. He waited, he loved, he never left. As the cloth was pulled away, a hush fell over the crowd. Even the birds seemed to stop their morning song. The woman with the roses, now known in town only as M, stood quietly at the front, her hands trembling as she placed a real red rose at the base of the statue. The same kind she'd left every Thursday before her grief had become too heavy to carry. A little girl tugged at her dress. "Was he yours too?" she asked softly. The woman knelt beside her and nodded. "He was all of ours." From that day forward, the statue of Max became more than a tribute. It became a place of comfort. People left notes of their own losses there. Children brought drawings of pets they missed. Strangers sat beside the sculpture not to take photos but to cry, to reflect, to remember. Even in death, Max gave people something rare and beautiful. A belief in love that doesn't give up. A faith in loyalty that waits no matter how long. A story that told the world without ever speaking that some hearts are so full they echo long after they stop beating. And some said, on the quietest nights, when the wind rustled just right through the trees and the stars hung low enough to kiss the earth, you could still hear footsteps, two sets, one of a man, one of the dog, walking side by side through the grass, forever home.